Hey everybody, Will Hamilton here, and in this video I'm going to talk about the Rafael Nadal, Horacio Zeballos second round match at the French Open. Now, before I get to that match, I want to apologize to everybody who showed up at our website at 5 o'clock Eastern today looking for our live webcast of the French Open. We had some technical issues, some computer problems, and unfortunately we weren't able to broadcast live. So sorry about that. Sorry to everybody who set aside some time to watch that live. We really appreciate it, and we are working hard to resolve the computer issues that we've got. Now, in that webcast, I was going to talk about the Roger Federer Alejandro Falla match, which Federer won easily. He won it in straight sets. And I was also going to talk about the Gael Monfils Fabio Fognini match, which was called due to darkness at 5-all in the 5th set. So there's some interesting stuff going on today. I thought, the Federer match wasn't interesting, but Fed did sort of what I thought he was going to do. First of all, win easily, but second of all, kind of work on his game. It was kind of like batting practice, to be honest. That first set was, close. I mean, it went to a breaker, and Fed was a little errant over the course of that set, but when he needed to step it up, he did. He temporized a little bit on his ground strokes, made sure that he put pressure on his opponent, he didn't push, but he certainly kept the ball in. And then when he found his range in the second and third sets, it wasn't even close. So Fed's kind of on track. He's finding his game. He's getting the timing down, and he's working on the various elements he's going to have to advance deep in the tournament. And of course, match up with Rafa if they both make it to the final. Like I said, I am expecting that final, and I'm sure everybody out there is hoping for that final. So Fed is kind of, working out the kinks in his game, and I think he's making steady progress. So that was good to see. Now, another interesting match today was the Gael Monfils Fabio Fognini matchup, which got called due to darkness. It was interesting for a couple of reasons. First of all, the tournament director allowed the two to continue playing. Monfils wanted to keep playing, and it looked like Fognini, although we didn't have audio on the court, we couldn't hear what they were saying. It clearly looked like he wanted to stop playing, and so there was a 6-minute lull in there when Fognini was kind of arguing his case. He ended up getting a point penalty on his serve, so he was down love 15, and he ended up holding serve. It was, the play was really sort of unique because the visibility was so poor that you had both guys literally pushing down the middle of the court, not going for too much. And when they did go for big shots, sometimes they made it, but they made some errors just because the timing wasn't quite there. Fognini ended up holding to go up 5-4, and then Monfils is serving, and he starts to cramp. So, that was interesting because Monfils was lobbying to keep playing, and he's on the verge of cramps. That's just sort of bizarre. You would think, well, maybe you stop right there and you get a massage and you hydrate and you'll be good to go the next day. On the other hand, you could be saying, well, if he's physically spent right, at that point in the match, you try and get it out of the way, have a day's rest, and then be ready for your next round. So, you don't know exactly what was going through Monfils' mind there, but Monfils steps up to serve at 5-4, and the guy's cramping. He can't serve properly, so he's literally kind of arm serving the ball in. There's nothing on the serve, but Fognini can't do that much with it because there's literally no visibility. The ESPN feed was clipping between their sort of their cameras with some special filters on them so that you could see much better than the actual visibility on the court. And then they would take those filters off, and it was literally pitch black. It was worse than the final of Wimbledon in 2008 between Federer and Rafa, which everybody said was really bad. All the commentators were saying this is the worst they've ever seen in terms of visibility. So you had, Monfils can't serve. Both guys are pushing the ball down the middle of the court. Kind of looks like, a 12-year-old juniors match where they're moonballing to each other. And Fognini has a couple match points on Monfils' serve, can't close it out. Monfils ends up holding. It's 5-all. Finally, the tournament director calls the match, and they're going to finish it tomorrow. So you better believe I'm going to be tuned in to watch that because, you got to expect the French crowd to really be behind Monfils, and I'm interested to see how Monfils is physically. Fognini was really mentally tough in the end of that fifth set, where he really could have unraveled, having, the crowd was essentially booing him when he was trying to get the match called and couldn't, so he stepped up and was mentally tough to hold his serve. So we'll see if, how big of a factor the crowd is tomorrow, but really interesting dynamic, and I'm looking forward to seeing the close of that match. So with that in mind, I've talked for about maybe 7 minutes about some other matches today. Let's talk about tomorrow's match, which is Rafa versus Zeballos. And, there's not that much to talk about, to be honest. I think Rafa is going to steamroll Zeballos. And what was interesting is in the previous round, Rafa beat Mini Monfils, actually, Mina. And the guy is literally a spitting image of Gael Monfils, 18-year-old up-and-coming player. But Rafa, he won that match easily, yet he said, I played really poorly. He might have said I played terribly. I'm not sure about that exact language. But I think the reason he said that was because, I think the winners, or excuse me, the unforced errors to winners was 28 unforced errors and then 20 winners. That's certainly not a ratio you would typically expect from Rafa, especially on clay. But, the one thing Rafa has added recently to his game is, he's much better now than he was several years ago, and even, a little bit last year, about going on offense. And I think part of the reason he's being a little bit more aggressive is because he struggled against a guy like Soderling and Del Potro, where he sits back and, earlier in his career he's comfortable really grinding it out and wearing his opponents down and letting that high topspin do damage against most players. But then you get Soderling, and then you get Del Potro, who in some situations just feast on that stuff. So Rafa, you would assume, said to himself, well, I've got to incorporate more offense into my game. When I get an opportunity to go after my forehand, I need to take a bigger cut than I would have in the past, or maybe I would have just placed it but not really hit a forcing shot. So Rafa has been real good about taking big cuts, but he's also been good about being aggressive via his court positioning. This is something I said Federer needed to do, or excuse me, something I said Federer did well in the second set against Rafa in the recent Madrid final, but it's also something that Rafa has been working on where, this, I'm going to say Rafa's actually down here. I'm going to put this icon down because I think we're getting cut off a little bit up here from the camera. But you can see, let's say this is Rafa. This is Rafa's forehand. Normally he would hang out pretty far behind the baseline. Let's say that's 10 feet back. And he would just sort of set up shop there, and he wouldn't advance forward too often. Or let me phrase it this way. He wouldn't be really looking to be aggressive with his court positioning, moving in, and by hitting up closer to the baseline, he's cutting down on time. He's opening up angles he can work with. But now he's really good about stepping in and taking the initiative, not just in terms of flattening the ball out when necessary, but also in terms of that court positioning. So that's a nice adjustment he has made. And by doing that, it doesn't give his opponents, particularly a Soderling or a Del Potro who can handle that high topspin, doesn't give his opponents an opportunity to exploit this deep court positioning quite as much. When you're this far behind the baseline, you have more court to cover, you have to run more to get to the ball, and you're really susceptible to a well-hit angle. So Rafa has done a nice job of moving up when there's an opportunity and really taking it to his opponent, playing with controlled aggression. And if he's able to execute this and really work this in, which he's certainly already doing, but if this becomes automatic on a clay court, I mean, the guy already is essentially virtually unbeatable when he's playing well. But if he gets this down, I mean, everybody else might not, even bother showing up at the tournament. I mean, the guy is just money on clay, best clay court player ever. So it'll be interesting to see if Rafa thinks, if he plays better, per our definition when we're watching him, but if he thinks his game is improving as well. I expect him to improve because he has said himself he is, he sort of plays himself into better shape over the course of the French Open. That's what he said has happened in the past. So with that in mind, looking forward to these matches tomorrow. I will be doing more dry erase board videos like this, of course, every day over the course of the tournament, and we will work on the technical issues we are having with our webcast. So stay tuned for these videos. Check out our website for the webcast when we get everything going, and I look forward to seeing you all soon.